PCA Church is celebrating 100 years since the ordination of the first African elders in Kenya, with the theme Bearing Lasting Fruits. Thank you very much for finding time to join us on this episode. My name is Aida Muzati, and on set I'm being joined by Mr. Simon Kamore Mwangi, an elder at PCA Langata Church, Milimani South Presbytery, and also a managing director at MEP Microfinance Bank. Thank you very much, Mr. Simon, for finding time to join us.
Thank you, Aida.
And we also have Madam Rosemary Kamau, an elder at Signal Church Muguga Presbytery. Hope I got that right. Sigona Church Muguga Presbytery, and also Director Human Capital Managing National Police Service. Thank you as well for finding time. And on the far end is Mr. Fred Kaigwa, elder at PCA Kariobangi South Parish, Nairobi East Presbytery, and also the CEO at Kenya Association of Tour Operators. Thank you all for finding time to join us.
Thank you for inviting us.
And Rosemary, maybe we'll start with you. Being an elder at the PCA Church, how do you manage? You're also a director at Human Capital. How do you manage the two?
Well, for me, being in the public sector is a calling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm an ambassador witnessing for Christ. The challenge is time management, and if one is able to manage time properly, then you can manage being in the public sector in a busy institution where I handle more than 100,000 employees, and at the same time being a servant in the house of God, managing quite a number of congregants in the PCA Sigona Church.
Thank you. Simon, would you say it's the same for you, time management?
It's the same thing, and of course the focus. One gets to understand that you've been called to serve, and serving, you serve in your whole life. So your whole life is a whole life of service. Mm-hmm. So whether you're in the church, you're actually serving the public. Mm-hmm. And when I'm in corporate world, I'm also serving, and I represent God. Mm-hmm. So I have to organize myself and plan, because I have a responsibility to carry in the church, at home, and also in the corporate world where I work every other day. Yeah.
So time management, focus and planning. What about you, Mr. Kaiko?
For me, I'd also add the issue of commitment. When you accept to take up the duties of the office of an elder, because you accept, it is not imposed upon you, then you have to live up to the commitment. As the Bible says that where your heart is, so shall your treasure be.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that you have taken vows to serve. And then you look at the way you're going to manage your time and focus and commitment and leave the rest to God. Yes.
Thank you. So over to you, Rosemary. You can just tell us what contribution have the past elders made in the PCA Church and the society at large?
The elders have made quite a great contribution. They laid the foundation of the church. They were able to come up with the regulations. They were able to put up churches despite the many economic hardships that time. They've been able to come up with education institutions and hospitals. So they really laid a good foundation, of which now we're supposed to move on and add onto it.
So, Mr. Kaigwa, how do we move on and add onto what Madam Rosemary has said?
I think, as pointed out, the elders that served before, in their foresight, created a path. If I look like even in our own parish, whatever it is we're enjoying at the moment is what was done before we got there. Our challenge is how to manage the changing environment. Because if you look at the current environment that we're serving in, it is so different. The congregations are so dynamic and so different. So the challenge we are going to have is what kind of foundation do we lay that will be able to serve the future generation based on what it is that we are seeing now. Because the elders that were there before us served at their time under very difficult conditions. So for us, given what we are seeing, the technology, the people dynamics, we need to lay a foundation that is going to last an equally, even longer length in the years to come, in a different environment.
So now, Mr. Kamore, we've heard from Kaigwa, from the elders, the upcoming elders, they can borrow maybe technology from the generation. What would you say you would borrow from the past elders?
Okay, the past elders laid structures. If you move across the country, and particularly in old parishes, you'll find there are parcels of land. They secured, either helped purchase or secured parcels of land, built up church structures. And that is done. We don't need to reinvent, except when we are going to places that do not have such. But for today, we need to redefine what the church needs for the future and what will last for the future. And in my own thinking, is that the environment has changed a lot. The people we are shepherding, because an elder is a shepherd. First, you are shepherding families. And between 13 to 20, it can be more or less. Those ones are your pastoral care. Throughout the life of an eldership, you are pastoring. But you'll find that the dynamics are changing every other day. The congregation, the needs, the thinking, the atmosphere, the environment has changed across the country and across the world. So it is time that we need to redefine what is relevant so that the office of the elder remains relevant to the congregation that is changing, ever changing. So that's what I would want to say. And when you look at it, leadership, because eldership basically is leadership, is influence. We need to find ways and means of empowering elders to influence the congregants, to influence the church members in every other day. Because in the marketplace like where we serve, we are leaders, and basic principle is to influence the people we work together with. But how do we influence the congregants, the people who come to the church, the Christians, and Kenyan world over, so that 100 years down the line, they'll say, I was under the leadership of a certain elder of a church. So that's what we say, that we now need to redefine, and that will come up by adopting some of the things that are coming. We have already mentioned about technology. So every elder has to find a way of being technologically relevant. I will tell you, when Corona came, we had to adopt technology to shepherd.
Exactly.
Disease of stuff, Zoom, all those. Even now, we are on a TV, we have to do that. But the other things that are coming up, all the elders of the older days were in very, I would say, structures were proper, and even people world over would understand them and hold them with a bit of fear. Now things have changed. People are looking at you. Are you relevant to what they are going through? We have the youth. How are you going to impact the youth? We have now massive unemployment, and it is hitting us in the church. Where, what is the word of the elder in such scenarios? Now we are shepherding people like now in Corona environment. Our congregants have lost jobs. Now they are crying to us as elder. You may not have the means to sort them out, but what is your word, and how would you want to take them through? Are you ready? That's what I would say. So there are things that we need basically to redefine ourselves as we progress into the future, to ensure that we will not be left with an office of eldership that is not irrelevant to that is relevant to the issues that are facing the society.
Very true. Now, Madam Rosemary, even as an elder, I'm sure we all have role models of people to look up to in the current positions that we hold. What do you have a role model maybe from the past elders, and what virtue do you pick from them and even move on as an elder?
I have many role models of past ministers, elders, and even current elders. Because an elder's role is very unique. You are so many things in one, out of experience, out of consultations, because when you're shepherding, you will meet members who have different needs. So I've had several role models, and I'm still learning, it's a learning process. What I can pick from the older elders who've been there is fear of God, which seems to have diluted with the current elders. Because there was a lot of fear. We didn't have, when I talked to them, they did not have the equipments we have. They could just use a drum. How do they praise God? There was a lot of humility, even in the house of God. There were etiquettes of dressing. You could not just go to church. They tell me they could not even wear trousers in church. So there are those things that one can pick. The other thing I can pick from the elders who are there before us is commitment. Commitment and availability. Fine, we may argue and say probably that time there were not many commitments. Probably most of them had only one, taking care of the family and farming, as opposed to today, where you find elders have so many commitments. So those two virtues have kept me going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Karigwa, we've heard that there are things that we can copy from the past elders. And maybe you can just add on that, and whether you think the current elders embody the same.
One of the virtues that she's already mentioned, I was going to talk about, is the commitment. There is one word that causes a lot of problems when it comes to meetings, is the word apology. Give my apology. And it's very easy to say, give my apology. But the crop of elders we found when we were being ordained, there are some who are so committed. There's one who would be the first in church every Sunday. He'd be the first person to arrive every single Sunday, and almost the last to leave. And you actually sometimes feel very guilty when you feel like giving an apology. So I concur that the commitment that we found was a very good beacon for us to follow. I wouldn't say the current crop of elders are not living up to the task, but I think we are faced with a lot of varied challenges. As mentioned, the environment is very different. And if you're not careful, it is very easy to fall into that apology mode. But it all boils down to what Rosemary has said. What was your commitment the day you took your vows? What did you commit to do? Because there's a very long process before you become an elder, and you have a lot of time to decide yes or no. And we do have those that say, I don't think I'm able to do this, and they decline to take up the office. And it is acceptable, and there's no harm. When you accept to take that office, I think you're actually making a commitment between you and God, not so much the people. It is, how have you committed to serve your God, and how have you committed to let Him use you in His service to the people. So really, as an elder, I don't think you have a choice, because you're occupying a high office and everybody looks up to you, and you have to leave a good legacy as to what it is that you have achieved with God being your helper. So the current crop of elders, despite our challenges, I think we have no choice but to emulate those that we found. I think their life was tougher. Today, for me to sign a letter, I can scan it and WhatsApp it and email it. In the olden days, they had to deliver it physically. You had to come to the church physically, sign that letter, and then go back. So we have a lot of extra leverage that we really don't have much of an excuse. I also think the facilitation that is given to elders today is a lot better than what was there before. I remember the elders before us used to say that there was not even a cup of tea. When you come for Sunday, you'd finish the whole day. There was not even a single cup of tea. Today, I think you'll find a cup of tea in the vestry after the service.
Exactly.
So I think we have an easier time with different challenges, but the same level of commitment is expected. That is what I would say for us. The commitment has not changed. Just the environment. Work harder and live up to your vows to serve.
Okay, and of course, as human beings, we have shortcomings and we can only improve. So, Mr. Kamore, what would you like to see in future in the elders' office?
Okay, I'll start by saying the basics of eldership has not changed. The calling has not changed. The Word of God, which is the basis of our work, calling, and our faith has not changed. But what is changing is our working environment and the needs of the people. Now, to answer your question, I'll still go back to the issue of relevance. We are living in a society of relativism, where everything depends. But you see, you've been called with the salt of the earth, the light of the world. So as an elder, then you need to mash up the challenges of today. I said, when we look at like now the elders who are there when we were growing up, even approaching them, we would approach them with fear and reverence, because it was a symbol in the society. A whole village would go to an elder with basically fear, because they expected that he is holy, he's a man of God or woman of God, and there is a way the society would interpret. Now the society has since evolved, all right? So it is now the elders who are there today and the church wholesomely to evolve so that we may continue impacting the society, because the society may render the position of eldership or that service irrelevant if we don't impact. So let's see like this. What I want to see is a continuous capacity building. It is two-way, but also the church needs to invest in terms of capacity building for eldership so they can be able to match the challenges of today. The challenges of yesterday now, those are irrelevant, but today we have new. So we have family issues that are coming to the elders, but do they have some level of understanding in terms of counseling? Do they have some level of understanding in terms of leadership? And you see, leadership, it is not simply making decisions. Things have changed, right? And you are leading professionals in the church, people who are worked with their own issues, and they expect their elder to have some level of understanding, even in terms of advisory. But is the elder empowered? So a continuous capacity building for elder is necessary. And many associations, even business associations where they have come up with programs to empower their members. I'm sure if you look at the Travel Association, there must be something. If you go to any, like the institutes that we serve, I'm a member of a number of professional institutes, you'll find they have a continuous program for capacity building, because they expect their members up the game. When the challenges are increasing, also their members up their game. In my thinking, we need to have such a thing, such that we define what areas do we have to empower our elders, so that first you are ordained, but on an annual basis, you will continue to have a continuous level of education. Matters faith, yes. Matters the Bible, yes. But there are certain areas of leadership, corporate governance. The church we serve today is more complex than the church that was being served those days. I'm saying we have a lot of property. Do we define how to deal with the property? When we talk about property, there are also other legal issues. And the elders are the ones to sit in sessions, make decisions, recommendations, point the issues. They are intertwining with government issues every other day. Now, but what is the level of their understanding in terms of the issues that face them when they are managing the church as a corporate? What is the level of understanding when they're managing the congregants in terms of pastoral care? Are they able to do some of the basic things, even if they may not offer full-time solutions? They are always the first point of call for their issues. So it is good, after ordination, we continue to empower them and have a continuous program of empowerment so that they become more relevant to the society. That's what I would say.
So you just mentioned that for the past elders, when they were being approached, there was fear, of course. I'm sure it's fear because of respect.
Respect.
Madam Rosemary, will you say the same applies for the current elders, and how do you earn respect as an elder?
I can say the same applies. Of course, there's that fear. Times you walked in a place where you find members and they stop talking. And
fear, right?
They pay attention. The elder has entered. But we also have challenges, because we must move with the times. Things have changed. Like the youth now. I don't know whether we have noted. Most of them have not come back to church because they'd prefer live stream in the comfort of wherever they are. So we may need to reach out to them, or better still, have a department in church, ICT, which should be able to follow these members because they are not domiciled within or near the church or within the comfort of the church, so that they can be reached out there for pastoral guidance. The other issue is that probably some of the elders, I'm not saying all, some, may not reach that threshold of being feared. Probably because they've not kept to the standards. They've had issues. At times you go to a session and even before you're out, whatever you've debated is out there with the members. Of course, you'd not expect those members to respect you. So there are all those. Some codes of regulations are not followed as well. And then also the way you handle your members. You'll either earn respect or no respect at all.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you brought in a very important issue of youth. Mr. Kaigwa, maybe you can just build up on that. How do we draw in youth to the church?
I think one of the points that needs to be very clear to us at all times is that the church is what Kamara has mentioned, is actually a corporate structure. It's almost identical to Safaricom, Coca-Cola, or any other company in the corporate world. The only difference is that while one is chasing profit, we're chasing souls for Christ. While one is talking about profit and loss, we have to talk income and expenditure as we talk about receipts and payments. But we need to plan. You need to do your budgets. You need to do your forward thinking, and you run it exactly like a corporate entity. Otherwise, you run into problems. Now, coming to the youth, we need to have, every church needs to have a very clear policy and plan on how to deal and engage the youth. For instance, in my parish, in our strategic plan, one whole chapter is dedicated to the youth. Because you need to understand what are they looking for, what are they thinking. And one thing I hear a lot saying, the youth saying that the church does not understand us. The church does not cater for us. It has nothing, it is not being enough for us. But if you engage them to find out what enough is, they may not be able to tell you. So our youth are exposed to so many other influences. And especially now that, as Zulfin has mentioned, when we were forced to go live stream, we joined a whole host of other people who are also live stream. So where the youth were coming to one particular church and being fed, you are now having a whole array of live streams. You pick this one, that one. And it's quite easy, as she's mentioned, that they may feel more comfortable to just sit there and live stream. We have a duty to create structures that are youth friendly, structures and processes that identify what resonates with them. What do they want? And then where what they want does not gel with what the church would want, then we can find a way to bring them on board. But until we try and reach to them at their level to resonate with them with what they are comfortable with, there will be that disconnect. And I think one of the ways that churches can do that is to have quite a number of youthful elders. I remember during the time when we were being ordained, we were the youngest, where we were joining a group of people that you used to approach with a lot of reverence, and you're not even sure that you're going to fit with them. But somehow or the other, it kind of demystified the office of elder and brought in a youthful crop of elders that brought in a lot of more rapport. So if you had some youthful elders that are competent and able to do the work efficiently, you probably reach out a bit better than having some of us who are already maybe set in our ways. But each church, each congregation must have a special and particular program designed to reach out to the youth and bring them to where you want them. Otherwise, we're going to lose them. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much all for your insight. And the PCA Church is celebrating 100 years since the ordination of the first African elders. And indeed, these are words of wisdom. And the Swahili say, palipo na wazee hapa haribiki neno. And we are going to take a very, very short break. We'll be right back. The theme is bearing lasting fruit. See you in a short while.
next Monday on Rays of Hope.
What is mediation?
The people who are in dispute come together with the help of a third party, a professional, neutral third party, to help them resolve the dispute.
Mediation is one of the tools of alternative dispute resolution.
In mediation, there is no issue of anybody being right or wrong. It is how do we live together in peace in the circumstances that has now come out.
That's next Monday at 8 p.m. only on GAG TV.
Are you looking to grow a business? GAG TV offers you a variety of advertising opportunities to suit your budget. Advertise with us today and reach your potential customers countrywide. For more information, email us on sales@gagtv.org or call 0794 588 054.
Well, the PCA Church is celebrating 100 years since the ordination of its first African elders. And before we went for the break, we were talking about youth and how to bring youthful elders aboard. Well, so Mr. Kaigwa, maybe you can just develop on that a little. How do we bring youthful elders on board? Because it's not like back then when people used to think that for you to be an elder of the PCA Church, you have to be maybe about 50 years.
Thank you, Haida. I think one of the lessons that we have learned in the recent couple of months was the issue of the age factor. A point where you find that half of your team is ineligible to come to church. Going forward, I think it's good to diversify that gap and have a very wide diversity within the eldership, and particularly in the issue of bringing on board missing skill sets. The world is changing and evolving, and I think a lot of people came to learn about Zoom for the first time a few months ago. Some still are struggling to come to terms with what it is all about. We need to have a situation where going forward that we have a sizable number of youthful elders coming on board. Youthful could be anything, even 30s, late 20s, mid 30s, and pay attention to the skills that the church needs to go forward. Because I always say the church is a corporate entity, and we have to operate with the basic corporate principles, with our main focus being to save souls, but corporate principles apply in every institution. So I think with a good crop of youthful elders who are well skilled in their various diverse areas of operations in IT, technology, and all other areas that we need, you find that the sessions actually become richer. And in terms of continuity, you have a better continuity when you have people who serve for a longer period. We're not that badly off, but I think going forward, we should look at that age to be leaning towards the youthful side and balancing also with the gender.
Okay, before we go to the challenges that you face as elders, Madam Rosemary, you're a woman elder in the PCA Church. I'm told that back then we never used to have female elders. Did you face any challenge or did you face any rejection when you were being elected?
Fortunately for me, I didn't face any challenge because I found other lady elders who had been ordained and I was able to work with them. They were able to narrate to me the challenges. You know, at times they could be looked down upon before they were actually accepted. But they've mentored me well, and I'm enjoying being an elder. Yes.
And what are some of the challenges that you face as a Christian elder?
Some of the challenges within the community, the expectations are high, and the challenges too. You'll find probably something has happened within your neighborhood, and everybody is looking up to you. The other day I had a neighbor, because of the corona issues and the depression, she wanted to commit suicide. And you see everybody around that neighborhood were asking, where is she? So that she can come and counsel. So those are some of the challenges that we encounter in the community.
Mr. Kamolo, will you maybe build up on that, on the challenges that we are facing?
Okay, yes. I'll differentiate or classify or categorize the challenges into two. The challenges in the service in church, which to me is still public. But I don't differentiate. I know, or what I know is that there are no two lives of a Christian. We don't have a life in Christian service or church service and a life outside. You have only one life because your calling is one. But they are categorize the challenges into two. Now, the challenges in service is that we have diverse needs that are coming up. Families are becoming more complex. So it means this time you have a complete family. The other one is a youth family. Another one is a very elderly family. Another one is single parenting. Another one is a broken family. And you're supposed to speak a word of hope and guide them. Another one is a family that has lost a job. A family that has lost a loved one. You must have a word for every one of them to counsel, to walk with them, and to give them hope, and to show them Christ. Because ultimately, is that we must lead our congregants, whether they are children or very aged, our grandfathers and mothers. You must guide them to see Christ and to be in Christ. And now in corporate world, it's a man-eat-man society. So you will be bogged, like now when Corona came, it came and faced all of us, both Christian CEOs and non-Christian CEOs. So there are things that you need to do because of the position that you hold as a CEO. You need to make decisions, the right decisions. And when you're making those decisions, of course, you're guiding policies, and it's what you must do. And so as a Christian, you are there, you're fixed. After all, the players in the market, when they're coming up with a valuable proposition, some of them will be testing your integrity, right? So it's upon you first to know that you are Christian. Christian, a believer, the bottom line. So that when you make a decision, you're making a decision that is in line with the word of God, in line with the policies that guide your level of operation. You are banking like myself. I must make decisions that first are also in line with the principles and policies that you work with, because I'm a steward. So challenges are there, and every day you're put to test. And but the good thing is, if you become consistent and you're not fearing to hurt people when you're making decisions and stand firm on the principles, people get to know. So some of them will be avoiding you. Of course, their sacrifices will be making. You may be losing some of the deals, as they say, or opportunities, as they say. But God is able to take care of his own, as long as you have made a decision and made up your mind to walk through the right.
So Mr. Kaigwa, we were just having that discussion about special needs, maybe as a challenge, and how we can build it in our specific presbyteries. Maybe you can just touch on that.
I think one of the areas going forward is the church to look into the areas that sometimes that we overlooked. And when you talk about special needs, there are people who are not able to fellowship, for lack of a better word, say normally, like what we would call the normal fellowship for able-bodied persons. In Karabagi South, we had Reverend Dr. John Gisheru some many years back, who said we need to start a deaf ministry. And at that time, we did not have a single deaf congregant in the church. So of course we were puzzled and we couldn't understand. You're starting a deaf ministry and you don't have a single deaf person in the church. So the deaf ministry started with an interpreter, and maybe I think they brought one or two people who are deaf to start there. Today we have a vibrant and very large deaf ministry that even has their own service streaming. They occupy a whole section of the church, and they are not having their own service, but they're in the service with us with interpreters. But when you look at it in terms of the way it started, we didn't have that person when we started. We created the service, and in turn, it brought the people on board. So I think it's something for the parishes and the congregation to consider, that are the services going to just be for the normal able-bodied persons, or do you create a service that would attract other people who are probably at home, not able to join you? And there are other people who probably cannot come to the church because the way it is structured, they can't climb stairs. So going forward, I think we need to reach out to all levels and find out who are those people out there who probably are not able to enjoy the service because of a challenge they're having, and how can the church address that challenge? And you may not have them with you, but if you start it, they will come.
Exactly.
Yes. It's a chicken and egg, but I think it's for the church to start and allow them to come. Yes.
So we mentioned all those challenges. Madam Rosemary, what are some of the solutions that we can provide to these challenges, or how do we overcome them?
Some of the solutions is that once we know the challenges that we are having, then the solutions will be found within. For example, there's another challenge of the elderly who nobody seems to understand. Previously, they've been coming to the services and they've been enjoying, but because of age, you'll find some of the instruments we use in church bother them a lot. Times they say the mics are too loud, the music is too loud, the organs are... Then at times you'll even hear they don't hear anything. Then probably when it comes to praise and worship, young people enjoy that. For them, they get tired very fast. So I'm thinking that is another special group that needs to be given attention. Currently, that age group, they are not allowed in church as guided by the Ministry of Health. And it's very difficult to reach them. You'll find they're not able to stream live because of the kind of phones they're having. Or they may not even know how to. Then we've not been told to have meetings, close meetings with them. And we're also taking care of them because of their age. So they kind of feel left out and unwanted. So that's a very special group that needs to be taken care of.
So Mr. Kamore, would you say that having different services that factor in these special groups will come in as a solution?
Yes, that's the solution. But again, to me, I talked about relevance. These are part of the congregants. We will continue to have special groups, many special groups within the congregants. So elders and the church in entirety need to continuously interpret, come together, interpret, and then read the signs of the times. So they come up with the programs on how to minister to all of this, because they all need to be directed to Christ. So several services, that could be one option. We could also be having maybe outreach programs to reach them. Again, we also still may have another crop that is not able to move, because basically, again, you're having more aged. When you look at the lifespan, increasingly we have more people living longer. So if you look at the people you are serving in the church, there are so many and special needs. So the church, the elders will need to continue coming up with programs that will reach their congregants. Several services, yes, it is an option, but we need to do more than that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Mr. Kaigwa, as we wind up, what's your message to someone out there that they have that calling of being an elder, but they shy off to maybe being picked? And first of all, even before you respond to that, how do you know that you have a calling?
Okay. The procedure for ordaining elders in PCA is a session that nominates. So the point in time where you get to accept or reject is when you are requested to serve. So at that point in time is when you now decide, am I up to the task? But for me, what I'll tell anybody out there who is either a prospective elder or a new elder, or somebody who probably aspires to eldership, I've always said that God does not call the qualified. He qualifies those that he calls. And it is something that I don't think any one of us was actually even ready to be an elder. I'm sure some going to shock when they are approached, and some outrightly decline. But it is, for me, that's actually a good sign. Given a choice between somebody who's campaigning to be an elder and one who's declining, I think I would be more in favor of the one who declined, because you have seen the magnitude of the task and you realize what it is you are getting into service. and maybe you feel you're not up to it. However, it's not about being qualified by an elder. It's about being dedicated to the vows that you take to serve, and letting God use you as He sees fit. Because it's not my work. It's not His work. It's not her work. We're doing God's work, and God will qualify you as He sees fit. So if you let Him use you truly and you dedicate yourself to His service, eventually you'll get there, because you're not the first. You are in a session with 20, 30 other elders. You have mentors, you have role models, you have people who are guiding you. So unless you really want to fail, if you really are committed to serve, do not fear. Let God use you, and as long as you are sure you're going to dedicate yourself to service. The challenge we have is lack of commitment and lack of dedication, and then being sidetracked. As you mentioned, the corporate world is management. It's very easy to let your work distract you from going to the district. But then you ask yourself, why am I here? So my advice is that be dedicated, be true to your calling, and just let God use you as He sees fit. Yes.
Okay. Madam Raspberry, your call to other women elders or those that aspire to be one.
I would just encourage them to join. Personally, I was one of the elders who were nominated and declined. And then God has His way of bringing you back. Remember the story of Jonah. He decided to run away, he was swallowed, and eventually he found himself, that kind of a thing. I went through something like that. So there's no cause to fear. It is good to serve God. There are lots of benefits in serving God. But one has to be prepared to invest. You must invest your time, you must invest your resources, you must invest in the Word of God, because you cannot give what you don't have. So you research, and you must also support. You are an all-rounder person, because your members will come to you seeking information that you may not even be able to have it. But the expectations are very high. So I would really encourage them to come and serve God. Yeah.
And Mr. Kamore, will you say, being managing director at SMEP Microfinance, will you say maybe our careers will be some of the things that make us shy off from serving the church?
Okay, an interesting one. I became an elder before I became an MD, because now I'll be 10 years next year. I was ordained on 11th December 2011. By then I was the head of finance. But for 4 years after that is when I was appointed as an MD, first as an acting MD and then an MD. There are many things that may really make people refuse to become an elder when they are approached. First is the issue of ignorance, the understanding and the expectation. And of course the fear. There is always the fear of unknown. So career may be one. You may feel that maybe I'm too big, or I'm too small, or I don't have this, or I'm not like this. But you see, all of those ones are irrelevances. It is God who is calling you to serve. And then God will call you to serve in every day activity that you are doing. That's why I'm saying there is very minimal distinction between church service and corporate. So if you are a Christian and you're an MD, first is that you are a Christian, right? So you serve as that office of MD, knowing too well that you have a heavenly master. That one is a bigger calling. So there are many things people may forward, but I would want to say again, just like Rosemary, even myself I had declined. But of course I had my own reasons, because the parish that was inviting me is a rural parish, where I come from. I'm country, and I'm here. I am family, and I was feeling now traveling every other weekend, and I'm not traveling with my wife and children. How would I be effective? So I told them, no. But then barely 2 years after, now the parish where I was fellowshipping here called me. So I said, okay, this one I can't say no. Use the distance as a reason last time. So I would want to encourage that we have giftings that God has given us. He has given us an opportunity to impact upon lives. So positions should not be a hindrance. In fact, we have the capacity to organize and reorganize ourselves as long as we say yes to the calling of the service of God. And to my fellow elders, is now the challenge we have is to build lasting entities. And I think institutions for the next 100 years. Our fathers, our grandfathers did what they did, but what would we want to be known for, PCA to be known for, or the church to be known for 100 years down the line? We have skills, those skills that we have gathered over the line as professionals, as people of the goodwill. We need to bring them into the church and utilize them to build the best institutions for the church, because as we progress, possibly evangelism is also mutating. We will do evangelism through our schools, through our hospitals, through our colleges, through our hotels, through our corporate entities that are owned by churches. Right? Because there we can have chaplaincy. It is okay. We can do whatever we want. And even through our behavior and modeling, we can bring people to Christ. Right? So lifestyle evangelism is critical. And one of the things we can empower ourselves and our church is to build lasting institutions. And we can only do that if we become corporate players that are known to love Christ and people of integrity. So we have a lot of space, and I would encourage many people to join this ministry, because it's a ministry to me.
Thank you. There are many factors that you've mentioned, and you've brought in a very key aspect, I'll say the aspect of family. Mr. Kaigwa, very briefly, what would you say the role of the family is in supporting an elder, whether they are part of your family or just generally?
I think the family can make your life either very difficult or very easy. And if you remember, when you are being ordained as an elder, your spouse comes and stands behind you. And as you take your vows, they are right there supporting you. Meaning that it is expected that the family would give you support. They also have to understand a lot, because the elder's life is a life of sacrifice. You sacrifice a lot of time. You are away attending to other people's issues a lot of time. So if you don't have an understanding and supportive family, you might find that your work becomes a bit very tough. You also need to balance that you don't expend all your energies supporting other people and you forget the ones that you have in your house. In fact, the Bible says an elder should be one who is able to effectively manage his own house first. So you cannot manage your house, then how do you manage the house of God? So you should be effective and efficient at your own level, have a solid family, and then you're able to minister to others. But any time that the family support is low, you find that your work will become very difficult. I've been fortunate to have very good family support all through. I was ordained as an elder with a very young family. They're now past university, so it's been a very supportive family. You're away a lot of times, meetings, sessions, presbytery. You need a very supportive family structure. Yes.
Okay. So as we celebrate 100 years of eldership, your message to elders and the entire Presbyterian family. We'll start with you then.
My message is, we have had 100 years and we've achieved what we have achieved. We need to give another 100 years. So it is our time to lay the foundations for the next 100 years. Based on what has been done, we shall not reinvent the wheel, but we need to take on board the changing times and create structures that are relevant to today and will last another 100 years. If we don't do that, then they look back and say that during this time, during the time of Corona, the crop that was there at the time did not do the right thing. But eldership is an evolving process. You do your bit, and you let the others also do their bit. There's no monopoly. So it's a team effort, and collectively we can be able to build on the church. The PCA church is said to be one of the stable churches, because even if you had a problem in one congregation, there are other structures. You even had, you can send a whole team of elders to a church and replace. So it is a stable church. So we have that stability that allows us now to concentrate on the work of God. and build foundations that will last another 100 years. I would urge every single congregation to have a strategic plan if they don't have one already, because that now allows you to focus and put your vision into focus at where you want to be, and together I think we'll achieve a lot in terms of taking this church forward another 100 years. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, for me is we need to improve. We need to work very hard and make things better and leave them better than we have found them, for the glory and honor of God.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. What I would say again, going back to relevance, the congregants or our customers, I would say, are evolving. The critical thing as elders we need to, or questions that we need to answer is that our customers that are ever changing, ever mutating every other day, will they continuously find us relevant? Or the church or the congregants of today, the day of today, continuously see us relevant? So we have a challenge to hone our skills as leaders so that we are able to start in the gap, work with the people that always look unto us for leadership. So we need to find ways of building our capacity in all areas, aspects of life. We need to hone our skills in terms of building institutions that last. We need to be brave and bold in making decisions that need to be made, because institutions will be built upon brave decisions and choices, firm choices, that elders will always be called to make. Let us make them without fear, because the Lord that we serve has given us all these giftings, and we will stand before Him and say, I gave you this position, or this office of eldership, or I give this life so that you may influence them positively towards Christ Jesus. Why did you do it? So that's what I say, and encourage all of us who are in service not to be fearful, even as we make the sacrifice, because there is a reward in heaven for us. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Mr. Kaigwa, Madam Rosemary, and Mr. Kamore, for your time and for making this discussion possible. Indeed, it has been very insightful.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you. So, there's one thing I've gotten from this discussion, and is that God does not call the qualified, but He qualifies those that He has called. Thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us as we celebrate 100 years of eldership. I've been your host, Aida Munzati. May God bless you.
Here comes the week that has taken 100 years to be, the week that marks 100 years since the ordination of the first African PCA elders. From the initial 28 elders ordained on 16th September 1920, now PCA has over 20,000 elders. Praise be to God. On Monday 8 p.m., CAC TV will feature an overview of the office of an elder, including a day in the life of an elder and the opinion of the youth on elders. On Tuesday, the children and the grandchildren of the initial elders will have an opportunity to reflect on the impact of their parents and grandparents and how their faith has impacted them. On Wednesday at 9 p.m., you will be inspired by the narration from various elders on what their offices entails, and as well as comparison between the elders then and the elders now. On Thursday, 7:30 p.m., CAC TV will feature an amazing session, PCA elders who are in politics,